Views on the killing and the impact it's likely to have, because it's obviously raising the issue of the fragility of the amnesty program as a whole. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, it does threaten the amnesty. We've seen Timi Alaibe, who is a very influential player in the whole amnesty scheme and in the Niger Delta region, warn that the federal government needs to thoroughly investigate what has happened, find the killers. I think it thoroughly damages confidence in the amnesty scheme. I'm sure if you were a former militant, especially the leaders who have accepted this offer, and you then see one of the other leading amnesty militants killed, shot dead in the region, it would shake your confidence in the region. People might begin to rearm again. Opeyemi Agbaje was particularly, I think, was an important amnesty militant leader in the River State region, is Calabari, and so there's significant potential for a flare-up.
Okay, and then, excuse me, that has actually raised, speaking of the amnesty program now, some have also raised issues with the legality of the whole program as a whole. And now we know that amnesty is something that has been applied several other regions in the world, but do you think the way it has been structured can come back to bite the
government? Under the Constitution, my understanding is that the president has the power to pardon people, to grant, in effect, what they've called amnesty. In our laws, a prerogative of mercy, pardon, and all of that. He has the power to do that. I don't think the real problem is legal. I think the real problem is political. The amnesty itself ought to be only one step in a wider series of steps. Now, you've taken the amnesty step, but if you don't take the other series of steps to create jobs for the militant, to deal with infrastructure, to deal with the environment, to engage the development of the region, all of the wider steps, and to deal with the politics of the region. Absolutely. Because the politics of the region created the militants in the first place. There's a tendency for violence, especially in relation to elections and all of that. And so the coincidence of Opeyemi Agbaje's killing with the 2011, the beginnings of the 2011 campaign is a particularly dangerous signal.
But how will you say, how stable is that region, and really, how has the government succeeded in keeping the peace? Because obviously, oil production has revved up over the last 1 year significantly, and government revenues have grown as a result. What exactly has been done to enforce it?
The government has been, you're right, the government has been very successful. With the amnesty, I think the militants themselves were a bit tired of the conflict, and they really needed a rest. I think several of them had become quite wealthy, and they wanted some peace to enjoy their wealth. So the danger is not from the former militant leaders. The danger is from their lieutenants and those a little bit closer to the top, who may at some point launch out on their own and resume hostilities if the underlying factors are not addressed.
Okay, but what's the long-term solution to the region? I think you've already raised some of those issues, because amnesty, like you said, was a stopgap. It's something that they just needed to do to get peace in the region immediately. But is this a long-term solution?
Let me tell you, and I've already hinted at that, the biggest threat to the amnesty is the 2011 elections. With the campaign cycle, politicians, if the government is not vigilant, will recruit these militants. And they may not recruit like the leaders anymore. They may recruit their lieutenants, many of whom can muster some support. And you could have a resumption at first of maybe not directed to government, directed at political thuggery and enforcement. But after the elections, as happened before, the politicians then go on to State House and to the Senate and House of Reps, and they leave these people who they have armed and who they have mobilized for violent purposes, and then those people turn against the community and against the state. So the biggest danger is with the politicking in the region. Beyond that, like I said, you need to deal with the underlying causes, the structure of the federation, issues of resource control and allocation, issues of environment environmental remediation, employment, unemployment in the region, the structure of the south of the Niger Delta society, with many of the elders having been displaced in terms of authority and influence in favor of young people, many of whom are very little educated, now exercising control. All of those issues have to be dealt with to prevent a resurgence of crisis in the region.